Welcome back to the Ingraham Angle. Now more of my exclusive interview with the president's attorney, Rudy Giuliani. Even buried in the New York Times, a big New York Times piece today, is a little nugget that you have to kind of search for, Rudy, that says nothing publicly disclosed ties the Trump campaign or the president himself to these nefarious dealings with the Russians. That's, again, you have to kind of look past the headline all the way to that.
That's been true from day one. It's true today. They're not going to be able to invent any evidence of that. And it's a shame that they have, plus they won't answer Congress on how much money this is costing the American people. It's costing us a fortune. Maybe these guys, you know, figure they can't get a good job.
You get the sense that they are going to focus in on some type of obstruction claim. And we're sitting around.
To do what? To recommend impeachment? I mean, they don't get to do that. I mean, they get to send a report to Rosenstein on what they found. I guess they could gratuitously include a recommendation, but really they shouldn't.
Or the facts that would indicate the facts amounting to the elements of the crime.
We could produce a memo for him that rebuts them all 1,000%.
Well, and it would be probably either about the Trump Tower meeting. There's still confusion there. A lot of
which he wasn't present at.
Right. But he wasn't present at. But then Don Trump Jr., the transcript notes of his talk with Capitol Hill came out today. Senate committee released the notes, and he said he did not have a memory about talking to his father with it specifically. Then they're focusing on this blocked call that he made that day, and he doesn't remember if it was to his father or not. I mean, that's the theory that they're spinning out. And
since I believe it took place in the office, it would have been very easy for him to
June of 2016.
Yeah. Also, remember June of 2016. That's about when I joined the campaign. Nobody's going to focus on a Russian woman who says that she has information about Hillary. Turns out she wants to negotiate sanctions, and they throw her out basically. And then when she wants to meet again, they don't meet with her. I would remember that. But I had people coming up to me saying all kinds of things about Hillary, and I'm willing to believe almost anything about her. And I used to get rid of them.
Well, the headlines today, CNN, Don Jr. admits he was looking for dirt on Hillary from the Russians.
Wow. And they weren't looking for dirt on Donald Trump?
Only the dossier.
When I ran against them, they were looking for dirt on me every day. I mean, that's what you do. Maybe you shouldn't, but you do. It's nothing illegal about that. And even if it comes from a Russian or a German or an American, it doesn't matter. And they never used it. It's the main thing. They never used it. They rejected it. If there was collusion with the Russians, they would have used it.
Do you think that in the end, when you look at all the main flashpoints, the Trump Tower meeting, the Stormy Daniels payment, the raid on Manafort, the raid on Cohen, is there any one part of that concerns you more than other parts of that?
Yeah, their inability to reach a conclusion that is obvious, and their unwillingness to recognize the damage this does to our country all over the world. There's no reason for this investigation. There never was a good reason for it in the first place. This was engineered by Comey with the report, not the report, the interview thing that he wrote that he should have never revealed, which he leaked illegally through a professor. I mean, nobody.
DOJ is releasing those documents, by the way, on that particular professor.
Comey should be under investigation.
Dan Richman.
And the Clinton people wanted him fired before we did, for what he did to her. That was totally unethical. You know, it was totally unethical to reveal all the facts incriminating her, and then this specious argument that she shouldn't be prosecuted.
Do you have any information or any sense, again, given your background at Justice, how these things tend to go, that there's any chance that Bob Mueller gave immunity to Jim Comey?
No, I don't. I have no idea if he gave him immunity. I don't know why he's not being investigated. That troubles us because a lot of the president's statements contradict Comey. They're much more logical than Comey's, but they contradict his. If you want to just believe Comey, then you're walking him into a trap. And Comey's not been investigated. So I don't think we would sit him down for an interview unless Comey was investigated and treated in the same way.
This guy, Jay Goldberg, I guess he was some former Trump lawyer. I've never heard of him, but he was
Jay Goldberg.
Yeah, Jay Goldberg.
I know Jay. I tried cases against him.
Okay, well, he said...
I told him that I didn't think that Giuliani was the right person for him to select I thought that there were much better people that he could use in terms of negotiating with Mueller.
I guess I beat him too many times. Jay is getting a little old. There probably are better people. The only thing that I have is the president trusts me. And I trust the president, and I have his back in the right way. I believe I would represent any president put through this kind of torture. This is not right for our country. That's why I'm doing this. I'm doing it pro bono, and I'm doing it because I believe that this is just plain wrong.
The family, the toll this takes on the family. You mentioned Ivanka before. You said Jared is disposable. I'm not sure that went over very well.
No, I was kidding around.
Okay, I don't know if it went over all that well.
Jared loved it. Jared loved it. He said, "Did my wife tell you to say that?" And I said, "No, but you are disposable, Jared. Men always. I'm disposable too."
You're not worried. You're not worried about exposure that he has because of that meeting with a Russian banker in December of 2016.
I cannot figure out why that meeting means what it means. First of all, none of it was about getting her emails. It was about dirty information they alleged to have. They didn't have it. So, end of story.
I'm talking about the meeting that Jared had with that Russian bank in December of 2016.
That would be a totally different business thing. It has nothing to do with collusion with the Russians. The election's over at that point.
I think if you ordered a white Russian at the Russian tea room once, you'd be in trouble here.
I haven't been in Russia in 4 years or 5 years. Thank God.
Do you have any concern that there is no real way at this point to get a fair outcome by a special counsel that many very well-respected lawyers think was begun, named on spurious, fraudulent grounds?
Well, I'm confident that if we have to, we can get vindicated in court. I don't think we're going to have to, but I think we get vindicated in court. I'm still hopeful that when it comes down to it, they're not going to impair their reputations with a bogus report.
You're not going to court with the president, though. He's going to be interviewed. He's not going to be in court. He's going to be in Congress if it's referred.
Challenging the legitimacy of their investigatory authority and the way they've spanned it out so much.
So you maintain that the expansion of this probe, as it's been expanded,
and the misconduct
is illegitimate.
What they did with Manafort, what they did with Michael Cohen, all of the illegitimate things they've done, possibly placing a spy in the Trump campaign. All these things are areas where indictments have been dismissed because of government misconduct. Some of these same people have done it. I do not understand what Bob was thinking of hiring these people.
Are you concerned about any of the former Trump White House staffers? I know Hope Hicks, her name was thrown around in working with Don Jr., maybe on the statement about the Trump Tower meeting. Are you worried about her conversations at all with the special counsel? I mean, these guys are young. These are young kids.
You mean 1,001 prosecutions?
Yeah.
Those are false statements that are not under oath. God, that would be really cheap.
Yeah.
That'd be like...
but he's turning the screws on people. As Judge Ellis said, he's turning the screws on people, not because he cares about Manafort, 2004, 2007 banking issues. He cares about getting at Trump. That's what he cares about.
How could Manafort's 2004, 2005 activity have anything to do with
But
Trump?
Manafort's different from someone. I'm not saying anyone lied. I'm just saying Manafort's different from a 30-year-old or a 25-year-old who's like, I'm not going to lose my livelihood. You know how they operate. You were a prosecutor. This is what prosecutors do.
I work with Hope under intense pressure.
She's fantastic.
She's not going to lie.
No. I'm just using as an example of any staffer who would be. You know what they can do. You know how they work. You said this here. I have an email. Look at this. I got an email here, and then all of a sudden you're shaking.
If they did that to her, then a Justice Department would have to step in and act, because it would be just total injustice. And they've done a few injustices, but not quite as bad as that yet.
Timeline. What is your optimal timeline for this to wrap up?
They should do it today. I mean, as soon as possible. I think that they have the facts from which they can write their report. If you're going to write a fair report, fine, write it. If you're going to write an unfair report, write it, and we will combat it. We're ready to rip it apart, and we're ready to rip them apart if that's what they want. We would rather peacefully settle this and get it over with.
Rudy Giuliani.
Thank you.
Always great to see you. Thanks for coming in.